everyone. Thank you for listening to Neighborhood Watch. Today's episode is John Carpenter. So here we are. Issue 3.
Number 3. Issue 3, yes.
The trilogy is complete.
And welcome back, everybody.
Yes.
Sorry for the long wait, but we've been doing all sorts of crap.
Yeah,
World traveling, Peter.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. That's right. I'm still going through the jet lag. I'm a little fuzzier than usual, maybe.
I think that helps in talking about movies.
Yeah.
The more fuzzy, the more better.
Definitely. Yeah, it's good to be back. It's we were both talking about this, how we just couldn't wait to do another episode.
Man, drooling.
It's been over a month, I think, since we recorded, and we're just talking about, and it's been over a month since we watched the movie that we were gonna do for this episode.
That's right.
Which is, you want to say it?
The Thing.
Yes.
John Carpenter's The Thing, 1982.
Yes.
Not to be confused with the original,
which was
Thing from Another World.
Yeah. 1940 something.
Yes.
Yeah. We've done our research on this.
Way back in the day, you know, that one. That's what the internet is for.
Yep. Yeah, that's man, The Thing, I mean, let's just go into it because there's so much to talk about there. Yeah. And it's it's such a fun movie, and it's one of our favorites, I think.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. The more we've been talking about it, right? Yeah. It's like when push comes to shove and someone asks you, "Okay, guys, you're huge horror fans. What is your favorite horror movie?" And I want to phrase that very specifically. Not the best, right? Because there's always the huge... you can debate for freaking ever about what the best is. Forget the best. What is your favorite? Because I think that actually is more important. Like Schindler's List is generally considered the best movie ever made. And that's there's plenty of argument, right? I mean, we can find it 1,000 different ways. Yeah. But I don't know that it's my favorite by any means. I don't even know if it's in my top 25. It's a fantastic movie, but it's not my favorite.
No.
And so sometimes I think favorite is when people get afraid to say what their favorite is because they want to be like, well, this is the best because I know what other people know. Yeah. Forget all that.
Right.
The Thing is, it's so hard when you take another movie and you set it next to The Thing and say, how could it be better?
Right.
How could it be better?
Yeah.
And that's what I would love to talk about is there's so many things went right with this movie.
Yeah.
It was one thing after another.
Exactly. And it's such a, I mean, this movie, one of our first conversations, I think we probably talked about The Thing because anybody who loves movies and loves horror movies in particular goes back to this because most people would say this probably, they'd probably agree with us. It's the best practical effects.
That's right.
Period. I mean, it's like, you can't touch this.
That's right.
The amount of gore and weird creatures with eyeball stalks coming out and the just gallons of fake blood and I mean, they were just building just amazing sculpture things that moved with puppets and mechanical wires. And I mean, there's nothing that comes close. No. There's nothing that comes close. They can't even do this today.
That's right. They can't do that. Yeah. I mean, literally, they cannot do it today. There isn't anybody. They won't.
They won't spend the money to do it.
Yeah. No, not when you have obligations to the 5,000 CG artists that you have to hire on for every movie. You know, that's just the way that it went.
And here it was probably 4 guys with
Rob Bottin.
Right?
Exactly.
And they just built all this stuff.
Exactly.
And it looks amazing. Even to this day, it looks amazing.
And that's the best part of it, isn't it? Yeah.
We watched it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, for how many, and particularly then in 1982, so what are the downfalls? If you're doing practical effects, there are plenty of downfalls where it sucks, right? Yeah. And I generally think that it's the optical effects. People tend to forget that there's a huge difference between an optical effect and a practical effect, right? Optical effects are what you do to film, right? So that's the dissolves and that's the matte lines that everyone used to bitch about and all of the things that you're doing in the lab to the film, fade ins, fade outs, all of these things, right? But the practical effect is what is actually happening, right? Yes. I mean, the term, that's the thing that you're actually photographing, right?
It's happening in the
camera.
So
you do, and they would do color saturations and all of that, right? I mean, that's important too. Lighting's important. Color saturation's important. That helps with selling it as being something real.
Yep. The sound effects and
the sound
music
effects.
too.
Oh man, the Foley work, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. And this movie fires on every single cylinder. All the camera tricks too, especially with the not
reverse.
Gratuitous, but all the reverse shots. Yeah. And this really gets into, we're going to have a million threads going here at once, but it's the brilliance of the monster, right?
Yes.
Because although the thing is a monster movie, there's no one monster.
Yes.
That's the pure
beauty.
genius of the thing, is that, okay, what's
it?
the monster look like? Shit.
Yeah.
It's all things. It's all bad things.
And
it's all crazy things.
You give that to a guy that's just kind of, and I think
Rob Bottin
was just starting out in his career.
That's right, he was. Yeah.
So you tell this guy like, hey, it can be anything you want.
Yeah.
The gates floods,
and it did. And to Carpenter's,
yeah,
the beauty of Carpenter as a director, as maybe it's easy to say as opposed to somebody who's a lot more controlling, like a George Lucas type, right? Where you have to present everything to Lucas and he kind of says, yes, no, no, I want to do this. I think Carpenter way more is like, if it works, then yes. Yeah. If we can get it on film, then yes, just do it. And Rob Bottin is,
he just went wild.
And it's so cool. And man, if you don't love gratuitous, gory crap, this is the worst movie to watch ever.
I was just gonna say that
because it's foul.
Oh, this movie is so fun to watch with somebody who's never seen it before.
Oh my goodness!
Because they don't know what's coming.
That's right.
It's such a slow build up, and the tension and the music. And it's just beautiful, just little kind of dance he takes you on in the beginning, and you're in Antarctica, or is it Antarctica?
Yeah, it's Antarctica. Yeah,
and everything's quiet and there's just snow and then suddenly just this shitstorm
goes to berserk.
It just happens.
Totally berserk.
And you're just like, wow. I mean, we watched it with your brother who hadn't seen it for years. Right?
That's right. Yeah.
And he was just
his mouth was on the ground. Yeah. He couldn't believe it. He's like we shake our heads all the time. Like, why didn't I see that more recently? And you forget how good it is. Yeah.
And how good it still stands the test of time too. I mean, it's you watch those effects now and you're just still like just creeped out, and just like, wow, how did they do this?
Yep.
And
it doesn't suffer from a bunch of strings, because a lot of movies do kind of they suffer a little bit when you go to high def and everything, the resolution and everything gets better.
Yeah.
But if you don't keep the darkness of when it was made, you can kind of, the magic starts to become a little bit more transparent. This movie suffers from that in absolutely no way.
Yes. The matte painting.
The matte paintings. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tongue-tied. Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah, the matte work in this movie is fantastic.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, they just don't do it this way anymore.
They don't. They absolutely don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
They all scoff at the fact that they used to do it this way, which is funny because back then is when it was so good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, so I want to go back to when I saw. I think I'm trying to remember the first time I saw this movie now, right? And for me, okay, I grew up loving John Carpenter. Yep. My things that I loved from him were Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that was my gateway into who he was. It took me a while to watch Halloween, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Just because I knew I was aware of it, but I didn't connect that was him for years.
Yeah, right.
But I loved Big Trouble in Little China. I mean, I could watch that over and over again. And then from there, it was In the Mouth of Madness.
Yes.
I think was the next thing that I really remember. Like, this is a John Carpenter movie.
Right.
And then through the years, I slowly went back and looked at his other stuff. Oh, and They Live. That was a huge one too, right?
Yes.
But really, it was only those, and I just knew, like, oh yeah, he's this cool director.
Right.
And do you remember his music video for Big Trouble in Little China?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
I was like, he's a director, but he's making the music. You're like, what? So the thing then, when it came out on DVD, I think the first time was when I went and actually watched it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Again, I was aware of it. Yep. And there was like this slow buildup of like, I remember some of my friends would be like, yeah, you should watch that. It's pretty cool. Yep. When the DVD hit though, I think that first like collector's edition of it.
Yes.
I want to say 2002, something like that.
Yep.
Then everybody, like all of my friends were watching it and everybody was like, this is the greatest horror movie ever made. Everybody just.
Yeah, everybody's lights turned on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can not believe these creatures in here.
Right.
And so then that's when I was really, really into the thing, was right around 2002.
Excellent.
And what I was going to say was that it's such a fun movie too, because the cast in this. Oh, and that was the thing was the making of documentary on that collector's edition.
Yes.
People, that's a great thing to watch too. I think still one of the best making ofs I've ever seen too.
Oh,
because they cover everything, including those matte paintings you're just talking about.
Yep.
That guy talks about that whole process.
Yep.
And just how, you go back and you look at some of those shots of Antarctica, and they're just these little tiny pinpricks of people walking around in the snow, and there's just gigantic vista of like amazing Antarctica. Yeah. That's all just a painting. They just plop in there.
Right.
You're like, what?
Right.
No way.
Yeah, it's pure magic. It's pure. Yeah. It really is magic. And that matte artist too. We're gonna have to pull his name.
Yeah. He's like an old English dude.
Yes. Yeah, the work that he did on there was just absolutely masterpieces. Yeah, and the fact that, like you said, it totally fools you, right? Mm-hmm. Because you really can't see. It's not that like Luke Skywalker in the snowspeeder and you see the matte line around all the windows, and it's obvious that it's a guy sitting inside of a prop, and
with a little Vaseline on the bottom,
right? For whatever reason, John Carpenter and company were able to really put that together, and it blows your mind. You don't for one second think, oh yeah, that's just a painting on there.
Yeah.
It's like, man, that's great. And especially because they're repelling, when they repel down into the crater and all that, none of that's there.
That's there either.
That's all a drawing, and the spaceship and everything. Oh.
And let's talk about even just the beginning when you see the words of the thing. Wasn't that great?
Yeah,
that is a great story. Just how
is that optical effect. Yeah,
so you watch it in like it's that iconic, like the letters. It's a black screen, and then the letters kind of pop up with the blue light shooting through them, and the smoke.
The letters are burning into the black that you're
of
seeing
the screen,
and then the smoke rolls
through.
The
thing.
Yep,
and it's just kind of this weird ghostly light.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe you should just watch the making of about how they did that. But that's amazing. That's another thing where you're just like, okay, that was just a black garbage bag on top of a fish tank.
Yep.
And they're just burning it with like a cigarette lighter.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
It's magic. It's total magic. I know. And it really makes you realize how everything is an emulation now, right? Yeah. Like you can get free off the shelf software that will do exactly that effect, and it'll look polished and it'll look beautiful. But the fact that they were doing it with lighters and trash bags,
and it's just one. Dude.
Yeah,
I mean, again,
and it's all shot live too. That wasn't stop motion or anything. They were just like, no, we just had to figure out,
just got to do it,
how to light it on fire, and then it would do that.
Hopefully, it works.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, it's guerrilla, and it's just awesome.
Yeah. This movie, talk about a great movie to watch in the middle of the night too, by yourself.
Oh my goodness, yes.
That claustrophobia
and the isolation. The whole movie's all about being stuck in the middle of nowhere and
paranoia,
and the paranoia. Because the cast is so small, right? Yep. So it's all about everybody becoming more and more ratcheted up on the paranoia, and who's at fault, who's what, Yeah.
And they're just everybody's great. Every single person in there is a perfect person for that role.
That's right. Yeah, the casting couldn't have possibly come out any better. Yeah. Like there isn't any one person you're like, oh, I wish, like he sucked. I wish somebody else was in there.
Yep.
And we should just go down, So Kurt Russell as McCready.
Yep.
Wilford Brimley as Dr. Blair.
I love Wilford in this movie.
Oh, he's so good.
He is the best.
T.K. Carter as Knowles.
So he was the guy with the headphones.
Yes, riding around on the roller skates. And he was the cook.
He was the cook. And again, we talked about this when we watched it. There's a vibe where you can tell like this is definitely a reaction to the first Alien movie.
Absolutely,
right?
It was. Absolutely.
But this is John Carpenter's version of Alien, basically, because he takes it in that John Carpenter way.
And he does it in a smooth way too. That it's not blatantly ripping it off. Now, maybe in '82 you watched it, and it was that we don't watch back then. Everybody wasn't just watching movies on demand the way that they do now. Right. You might have been more savvy to like, oh yeah, this is kind of.
This reminds me of a few years ago when I saw Alien.
Yeah.
Did I see that? Was that actually a real movie?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Maybe someday I'll see it again. Maybe they'll bring it back to the theater 13 years later.
We'll go get it on Super 8 and watch it at home on our projector.
I can't imagine living like that. Poor people. That's like living without AC or something.
Oh my goodness!
How do you survive without watching movies over and over again?
Right. Well, you could watch Hey Beastmaster's on. Good old HBO.
Yes.
Watch Beastmaster over and over and over.
I love that. That's a great, nice little reference there to Coscarelli.
Yes. Yep. Good old Coscarelli.
Yeah.
To be continued later when we review Phantasm and that joke.
Yes, that's true. All 6 of those movies, right? Is it
So
6 now?
good. Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
Man. Yeah, the thing is so fun. It's all about that paranoia. The original one was, kind of about communism, really.
It really was. Yeah. Absolutely.
And the
was.
short story.
Yeah.
Short story.
Being infiltrated by
Yep.
communism and socialism, and how do you?
The Red Scare.
Yeah.
Your best friend may be a commie. Oh
Absolutely.
no. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It plays into that, but it's that isolation of the crew.
Yeah.
Stuck together, and this something weird is happening, and nobody can trust each other. And
Right. And I think that's the huge difference, just to compare it against Alien as a point of reference. But in Alien, you knew exactly who the bad guy was. And Alien is way more about a chase.
Yep.
It's always a chase, right? Everybody's hauling ass trying to get away, and they're trying to kill this thing.
Right.
And once the alien's out, it's definitely all the crew of the Nostromo are together in it, and they're just getting picked off one at another, and it's all this really cool chasing. The thing is very different from that, where you've got guys are factioning, where it's like, okay, well, these 2 guys trust each other, but they don't trust anybody else. And then these other 2 characters trust each other, but don't trust anybody else.
Protagonists.
Your 2 protagonists, right? Your 2, they're kind of like the big egos, right? The big egos are kind of coming up, and they're against each other.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, I'm the boss.
Yeah.
No, I should be the boss.
Yeah.
No, you're
right.
You're infected. No, you're infected.
Yeah.
But then they're kind of like, well, shit, man, we could be wrong.
Yeah.
So we can't totally just go at each other, but they want to. And I think that was just really good.
Human nature kind
pitting
of
those 2 guys
psychology.
against each other because they're on the same team,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that all gets resolved when they do the blood test and everybody kind of figures out.
Which is my favorite
And
scene.
it just builds up to that because, man, the build up to that scene is like these guys all want to kill each other. And it's all just you're freaking out, and you can't trust.
And it's great too because some of them too. You also get that feeling of like, I can't trust you. I can't trust you. It may even be me.
It
myself.
might even be me, and I don't know.
I don't know it.
That's right.
Oh,
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you mentioned this when we were watching it.
Yeah.
You said this is almost even a little bit of a nod at like the AIDS virus too.
Oh,
right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Like you could have it and you don't even know it.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. That's right. Because all of that, I mean, I totally think that was
it
part
played
of
into
that.
that.
There's no way that it
in
could.
the 80s, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because so when even when I watch it now, I always want to think, what's Richard Mauser's character's name? The guy who has the dogs.
I love that guy too. And what else is he in? Because I remember seeing
it.
He's in It.
So in It, he is, he's the guy who kills himself in the bathtub. And he's been in, Clark. Even watching it now, I still want to be like, Clark is the guy that's infected, and he's not.
He's not.
They kill him, and he wasn't even infected because he's acting like a creep.
Yeah,
but he's just a creepy dude.
He was just naturally like that. He was just weird.
It's brilliant, right?
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it, he's the dog handler, and so he's just kind of a weirdo. Yeah. He wants to be with the dogs.
Yeah.
He's like the least.
He just doesn't smile.
He
doesn't
he's just kind of grim and doesn't talk very much.
Yeah.
And then there's, the Carpenter just sets it up so well with, he's always out there with the dogs. And then we figure out, okay, the dog when the whole kennel scene happens, right? That's really the foot in the door to how awesome the movie's going to be. It all starts in the kennel. Yeah. When the invader, the dog who invaded, which was not really a dog, it was a thing.
Yep.
Which goes in there and infects all the other dogs and turns into just a
and that dog,
freaking weird thing.
That particular dog too that you start off with when the helicopter's chasing him through Antarctica. What a great actor that dog was.
He was great. He was great. You were on his side. You're like, man, why are these crazy
Stop shooting him.
Russians trying to kill this poor dog? Oh yeah. He needs I don't know why his name wasn't in the IMDb credits.
Right. He's one of the main stars of that movie. He just owns it. He owns it.
Yes.
Let's talk for a second.
Yes.
Because I don't think either one of us, we were talking about doing this. We just never got around to it. But neither one of us have seen the remake or the prequel of the thing.
Just thinking about it the other day. Yep.
Which we will get to because I know that I've got some good friends that have said it's actually pretty good.
Great.
But that, just to touch on it briefly, that takes place before this movie, which I think was a smart way to do it instead of just remake it.
Absolutely.
They're kind of like, because there's this whole other story that
we don't know.
Yeah. Before this movie started, there's already a whole nother story that we don't know.
Right.
And you're just kind of piecing it together as you watch, which is fun.
Right. But, absolutely. Yeah. So it's like the Swedes, right? Mm-hmm. And so their main guy must be a dude with a huge beer named McSweetie.
Right. Of course. Do you ever think of the X-Files movie too when you watch this? You remember the first X-Files movie?
Oh yeah, yes.
Fight the Future.
Yes.
They go back to Antarctica at the end, and I always think. Yep. Whenever I see the thing now, I always think about that movie too, which is actually that's
well, and definitely I think the X-Files did borrow heavily with because there are people walking around who are actually they're infected with the black whatever it's called.
Yeah, the black oil.
The black oil, yeah. Who's the main creep in it? The one creepy dude.
You mean in the TV show or in the movie?
In the movie. Or no, is it in the show?
Well, in the show, it was that dude. I can't remember his name. He's so fun to hate, though, right?
Yes, that guy.
It was like his name was McSweeney.
There we go. Okay.
I don't know. It was something.
But
like that.
I think they definitely borrowed. They were going just as a good storytelling device is that you can have people walking around and they live is this way too, right? You've got aliens walking around in plain sight, but you can't see that they are the bad thing. The great thing in the thing is that it's a very thin disguise.
Yeah.
Because eventually the thing like pops out and then it's just
tentacles flying out of your neck.
How many tentacles should we have in this shot?
God. Let's have
How
400.
many can we make?
Yeah.
How many fishing poles do we have?
Oh man, I mean, to this day, there's some visuals in there, like with the little weird, like polyp things that would develop inside of all those weird tendons and stuff. And then they would pop.
The condoms, that's what Rick Baker was talking about. They were just using all those condoms, condoms on top of condoms, because they could squirt. They could just tie them off and then fill them up with stuff, and then they would just blow up, right? But they were a better shape than a water balloon apparently, and thinner. So such a visual, man. Yeah. And it is, again, it's so good because a lot of times as a fan when you're watching, I mean, how many times have we been guilty of, it doesn't look real. Mm-hmm. That monster looks like a dude in a rubber suit. Yeah.
We were just talking about Silver Bullet.
There we go.
I think we should do this every episode, mention Silver Bullet.
Absolutely. Because it's so good. And
then
when we get to it, we'll be getting our, you guys, the one guy, and I want to thank the one guy who, our first poster, who posted on Evil Dead 2. Because we have like 13,000 views and only one person has posted so far. But thanks, and I did say thanks on there. Oh, nice. But eventually we're going to get a whole bunch of people saying, hey, man, quit talking about Silver Bullet and talk about Silver Bullet.
Yeah. Right.
But as you were saying, yes.
But no, that's just to mention that briefly. Yes. That is one of those cases where it's like the werewolf is not that good. We were just saying that it's not. It's kind of a little puppety. It's not.
Yep. Yep.
You let it slide,
and we let it slide because the rest of the movie is so good.
Great. Yep.
It's really about the build-ups to when something is going to happen.
Yep.
And that movie's full of cutaways. Yeah. It's full of you just see a hand. Yep. You just see like, and
the growl and
yeah. But it's great.
I know.
It's a good one. So as opposed to exactly that, where we're kind of like, that looks like Everett McGill in a crappy Muppet suit.
Right.
The thing is, well, look, if you have an expectation about what is anatomically correct, and you have expectations about this is a monster, this isn't a monster, this is a guy in a suit, then don't do any of that and let the thing be all bad things. Oh, it's all bad things. It's tentacles, it's claws, it's eyeballs, it's veins, gratuitous veins, right? It's all visceral, creepy shit.
You remember that autopsy that Wilford Brimley?
Oh yes, and he's just pulling this guy's guts out,
and then he reaches in, and then the rib cage comes and just clamps on him like a bear trap.
Yeah.
Oh, that's unbelievable.
Scene, yeah. That scene will blow your mind there.
It literally, it kicks you in the face. That scene is just.
Yeah. I remember the first time. Speaking of the first time we saw it. That was when I was just I was like
I'm
on
all
the
in.
floor. I was like, okay, this maybe is the greatest movie ever made. It could be because of that right there. Yeah. Yeah, and that's got one of the coolest special effects hides ever, which is that actor in that one split second shot of after the doctor gets his arms ripped off, and then it shows him with no arms and he's screaming. That's actually a different actor who was a Army veteran who had lost both his arms, and they brought him in and they took a cast of the actor's face and put it on his face.
Incredible.
And then had him just do that one split second shot screaming with no arms. So that really was a guy with no arms.
Yeah.
Because they're like, that's going to look phony. You know, well, how about, what can we do? And they figured it out. And it's that kind of magic is really lacking when you're like, hey, get our computer artist to put a fake face on him.
And I think that's again why this movie's so effective, especially now, right? Because we're so used to seeing the tricks.
That's what we're raging on.
And then now when they show you something real, it just gobsmacks you. You're just like, whoa,
right?
That was real. How did they do that?
Right. When you actually see the blood hit the floor and it's not. It's not blood. It's not pixels.
It's incredible. And still, I mean, you're still watching it now, and you're just still going, how did they do that? How did they do that?
Yep.
And that's such a fun feeling to have while you're watching a movie. Right?
Oh my goodness, isn't it?
Because most of the time nowadays, everybody's so jaded.
I
know how they did that.
I know. Yeah.
But still, you watch this, I guarantee you'll see some things where you're just like, how did they do that?
Yep. And this movie, this is we were talking earlier before we were on camera, psych on mic.
Yeah.
And I was saying how with John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness, how it really is. So that was made in '87, and I watched it for the first time a couple of weeks ago.
So good.
And I was like, I could watch this 5 times in a row and just nitpick out. There's so much going on, and it's so cool.
Yeah.
It's just buried with awesome stuff in it that holds up today. And so I'm not saying stuff that I want to pick out which are mistakes, right? I mean, you can go on IMDb, and every single movie has a list of goofs, right? And I think that's a weird thing to get hung up on, is that people do really want to be like,
what did they
to tear the Mirage down. And I don't so much, because for me, if the storytelling's bad, that's more egregious than any special effects or camera mistake, right? Any like, oh, we accidentally showed this guy and it's a reverse image, or this person's holding this can of soda and then in the next shot it's in the other hand. Yeah. That type of stuff. I just don't really give a crap about that. If the storytelling sucks, that's what you should be mad about.
Yeah. Agreed.
But like with Prince of Darkness and The Thing, it is so full of cool stuff to look at and to find, and especially in The Thing with the monster, right? Because not one single time is the monster the same monster. So you've got the autopsy, the chest monster, right? You've got when they catch him on fire and it turns into that bug. His head, that's his head. His head rips off, right?
And grows
the legs and then creeps away. It's like, man, they're just like, we're gonna get you.
Yeah.
And the dog monster, which is like a conglomerate, because that's a whole bunch of dogs freaking out and turning into all sorts of weird crap, and that
stuff just shooting out of them.
Yep. And then all going up onto the ceiling too, which was another Prince of Darkness that Carpenter went back to that, right? With having the monster up on the ceiling and squirting into their mouth.
He's like, I like that, worked pretty well. Let's do that again.
Yeah, but that was definitely from The Thing, with that whole like go up on the ceiling and just
man. So the Prince of Darkness, man.
Yeah.
So I was traveling and you emailed me.
Yes.
And you said, I'm trying to remember exactly what you said about Prince of Darkness, but it was such a great quote. It was like this movie is the John Carpenter's masterpiece, or the epitome of his career, or you made some cool. Do you remember what you said?
The pinnacle, maybe.
This is the pinnacle. This is like the John Carpenter masterclass, because it's like in that movie particularly. Yeah. All of these things that he was doing in the 80s and late 70s too, he kind of just folded them all into this movie, right?
Yes.
And you get to see a little bit of each kind of thing that he's known for.
Right.
Right. And it's so true. Right. I mean, it's like this movie is John Carpenter. This is his signature piece, maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah. It kind of is because so if you want the thing, then you're gonna get the effect, right? The effects just steal the show for how fantastic the story is. Yeah. It's an effects masterpiece, right?
That's what it's remembered for.
But it's in absolutely no way a comedy. No. There's almost zero humor in it whatsoever. Totally. And so just to contrast, that's what you're going to get from Big Trouble in Little China, right?
Let's go back. Let's go 1 second because you made a note of this when we watched it, and I don't want to forget about it. Kurt Russell's hat.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Which should be humorous.
Right.
It's not.
It's not.
He looks cool in that hat.
Yeah.
That's another thing. How does he do that? You can look at the effects and say, how did they make that? You look at that hat that he's wearing. That's a ridiculous hat.
It's
I
totally
guarantee
ridiculous.
Anyone put that hat on any cool dude out there.
Right.
They're going to look stupid.
In anything.
Yeah.
I mean, even as a character on stage, you would see that hat and laugh your ass off.
You would start laughing.
You're like, that's Yosemite Sam, man.
That's the hat that Norm Macdonald wore on SNL to be Burt Reynolds.
Yes,
but
it is.
For some reason, Kurt Russell, he makes it work. That's his character.
Right.
He's like this crazy pilot.
And I think you're absolutely right. It's because there's no humor. Yeah. There's no, and this is, it could be argued that it's the single hardest thing to do is to keep people engaged and scared and not give them a break, right?
Exactly.
Because the only breaks you get in the thing are when there's not a monster and people are sitting around talking about what to do, but they're high strung.
Yeah.
In every one of those cases, everybody's high strung.
Everybody's on edge. Yep.
And so even though the monster isn't the immediate threat right then, everybody's just grinding nails and kind of freaking out, right? Yep. He doesn't ever back off in this film except for that freaking hat. Yeah. And it's weird because then, the hat's not funny, I guess, because nothing's funny.
Right. It's cool. I don't know. And but to go back to your point, what you were saying, I think was that, but John Carpenter is known for humor in the rest of his movies.
Absolutely.
And so that's why Prince of Darkness is so good, because you get those John Carpenter riffs in there.
You do. And absolutely with the what's the actor's name from he's the main guy in Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, I was just looking up his name too because I felt bad. Actor. I think it's Dennis Dunn or Derek Dunn. His last name is definitely D-U-N, Dunn.
In Prince of Darkness, he really is the comedy relief, right?
Yeah.
And it's cool because he's one of the very few guys who doesn't get killed.
Yeah.
Like everybody's getting killed. You're like, oh, the schmuck's got to get killed, right? Yeah. And when he's locked in the room and the chick's coming, that's brilliant. Because he's like, guys, I need to get out. And then he goes like,
It's like freaking out. And they're like, okay, we got to start digging through the wall to get him out.
They're digging faster through the brick wall.
I mean, Again, talk about something that shouldn't work, right?
That's right.
That whole scene.
You're absolutely right.
As an audience member, you're watching this play out, and you're like, he's trapped in this little closet, and these two demonic women are standing outside, just standing there. They don't have any weapons.
It's so creepy.
They're creepy as hell.
So creepy.
But for me, if I was in that situation, I'd be like, you know what, I'm gonna take my chances, just run as fast as I can past them.
That's what I thought too.
Any normal
That's exactly
person would
what
do
I thought too. Yeah.
That's
what the entire audience thinks that, right? Just run. Yeah.
Everyone else.
Yeah.
You could even get in one of those body checks, and like knock him over.
Yep.
But for him, he's like, no, you guys have to dig me out.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait in here. You guys dig through this brick wall.
It's a brick wall.
I'll just wait here while they
and they're using like a fork or something or like a kitchen knife.
You're like, this is not going to work. But for some reason, like when you're watching it,
because he's ratcheting the tension up, right? Yep. And you see that, and you're right. His name's Dennis Dunn. Yeah.
Well, and it's cool because
and he's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool because these are all like science guys and stuff, scientists.
Yep.
None of them have a single weapon.
Right.
Nobody grabs a weapon at all once in this whole movie.
No, yeah.
What does he grab? Yeah. I think he grabs a chair one time.
The opposite happens. Oh, yeah. Well, the opposite happens like when the one dude gets possessed and he breaks the stairwell off, the banister.
And he stabs it in his own neck.
His own neck, or Alice Cooper stabs the guy with the bike, right?
That was a great death scene, man. Incredible death scene.
So good. Yeah.
He just kind of sags.
He just leans forward. Yeah.
With all this blood pouring out of him, he's just sagging on this old bike, right?
Yeah.
But I take it back though. There was another weapon. Do you remember? I think his name's Victor Wong. But
Yes.
he is the he's the old
the professor.
Professor.
Yep.
And he's also in Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes. Yep.
Great, awesome dude.
Fantastic actor.
He takes the chopstick.
Oh yeah.
The can of soda.
That's right.
And he starts shaking up the can of soda, and he's holding like a chopstick.
Yes.
And you're like watching this going, what the hell is he going to do with a
right.
can of Sprite?
Yep.
He's going to throw a can of Sprite at these guys. And yes, he does, but he also stabs the guy in the eye with the toothpick.
In the eye with the chopstick. Yeah.
Yeah, with the chopstick.
Yeah.
Great.
It's so good.
Love that scene.
It's so good. Oh man.
But man, yeah, not a single one of them ever once, other than those couple times, is like, you know what? Let's pick up a baseball bat. Or
it's never really a fight because I think as soon as they realized that the guys outside had locked them all inside, then they just freak out, right? They're like, oh crap!
Yeah.
Because all the goons had they were all circling around and closing the doors up to be overtaken by the Prince of Darkness.
Yes.
Which I mean, one of the best possessions ever, right? Yes. So how does he possess you? He squirts green fluid into your mouth.
To which you have to scream with your mouth open.
Yes.
And just keep your mouth open as long as you can, though, while that's happening.
It's so good.
Oh
man, it's so ridiculous. But in the context of the movie,
works.
You just buy it.
You buy it.
Right? Because it's always like the people are never ready. They're never ready for it. So like either... Yeah. Oh, I look over here and it shoots down off of the ceiling, right? Or this crazy lady walks up next to me and you're like, "Hey, what's wrong?"
She takes that one dude and he just slowly turns his head towards the camera and she does one of those Arnold Schwarzenegger like break your neck and commando moves.
Yep.
Love it.
The neck snapper.
Oh. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about this for a second.
Yes.
Because this again, another one that we have to watch together. Assault on Precinct 13.
Yes.
You have not seen it?
I've not seen it. Yes.
Again, when you go back and watch it, you're going to be like, you know what? This is also Prince of Darkness is referencing Assault on Precinct 13, which I think was one of his first movies, right? Yeah. I think it was. And so in Assault on Precinct 13, it's basically a zombie movie because they're just trapped inside Precinct 13. But it's instead of zombies, it's the 70s, so it's all like thugs,
right? It's thugs, yeah, and
chains,
punk rockers, yeah,
and like
bikers and punkers.
They've got that piece of wood with the nail in it and stuff, and they're all just they're just circling around
Goons.
this thing,
yeah.
And you're just like, it's a fun movie, it's really good,
yeah.
But you're just like, man, why didn't they make them into zombies? They're perfect. It's a perfect zombie movie,
right?
But they're just not.
Yeah. Or maybe they are. Maybe that's the that's that whole subcontext about why zombie movies got so good is because it's reflecting what society is seeing in itself. Maybe he was doing the same thing. Yeah. Right. But instead of having it, he just forgot to make them a zombie.
Yeah. He's like, they're scary enough as it is.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
It's true. And
those bikers.
Yeah. And so in Prince of Darkness, it's instead of bikers now it's the homeless.
Yes.
Which again,
it's brilliant.
That was people are still afraid of the homeless today.
That's right.
But in the 80s too, that was really starting to become like a phenomenon now, right? Like you had homeless people in the 70s and the 60s, but they were cool. They were like, they were like, hey, I'm gonna live
hippies.
Yeah, I'm gonna live my life my own way.
Yeah,
And you know, but in the 80s now it started to be like, well, yeah, you've got some of those cool homeless people, but then you also got just the straight up crazies too.
Right. Yeah. Well,
or
Vietnam
criminals.
Vets and criminals,
and Satan worshippers.
And junkies. I guess probably always junkies.
Yes.
Yeah. In this, it's not really Satan worshippers, but the Satan possessed, right? I mean, these people are man, that location too, that church location is just like the crappy part of downtown LA, right? It's like, here's this horrible, ugly looking place, and it was perfect, right? And the way they transpose it against, because USC, there's all the shots that are in actually at USC, right? You're like, oh, this is nice, and it's the university,
idyllic, college campus.
Then we go to downtown LA, where if you go today, it's like a freaking war zone, right? But
man, so
great
juxtaposition.
Thank you.
Yep.
I got half the word out.
It's I don't like to say that word because it's so difficult to say.
It is.
But
it really is.
You know what we're saying.
Yeah.
But then, so you have that tension of them just gathering around there, and they're going to come in, and then Alice Cooper, one of Alice Cooper's best. We were talking about that the other night.
Is right.
A perfect use of Alice Cooper.
Yep.
Right. You should say your Clint Eastwood thing, because I know I always go back to this too. This is your story, as far as acting, right?
With
acting, I think it applies to this.
So I'm quoting Clint Eastwood here, off of one of the great many interviews he did on the box set for the re-release of all the Dirty Harrys. But what he said was, what Sergio Leone saw in him, which really is what he really was the foundation for his career as an actor, even though he had done Rawhide and everything before that, was he said, look, don't ask me to give a bunch of lines. That's not what I'm good at. What I am good at is looking into camera and looking away from camera and giving profile and looking like a badass, right? Yeah. And so
that's how you use
Alice Cooper, right? Because he's got no lines, and he's so central
creepy.
to this movie with not a single line said. And it says something to really his ability as a rock and roller, and kind of having come up in that whole in front of the camera thing. He just nailed it.
He was so creepy.
Just like, how do you want me to look into camera and just be a creepy freaking weirdo?
Yep. So it's exactly it's the perfect use of that. So if you're going to make a Clint Eastwood movie, then you just don't have him say anything. Just make him have him do what he just said. Yeah. Same thing with Alice Cooper, right? Like just make him look creepy. Have him walk around and look creepy. It's the best use of Alice Cooper.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because he once he starts talking, then you're like, hey, not so scary anymore.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Well, the scary part is in the not knowing, right? I think that's what made Eastwood so menacing a lot of the times, was you're trying to guess what his motives are, and if he's not running at the mouth, like so many assholes do, when people run at the mouth, exactly, they're telling you everything about themselves, right? You're like, but okay, I understand your character now. Yeah. But that kind of Clint Eastwood approach is, now you're kind of in an enigma, and I'm having to guess from the way that you're looking at things as to what your motives are. And Outlaw Josie Wales, I think, is maybe one of his greatest performances ever.
Definitely.
And he's got almost no lines. Totally. He almost, literally, his script in that is like 12 lines, right? And he directed that movie too. So he knew then what he was doing. That was 1974, right? Like, okay, I know how to do me. Yeah.
He's looking at the script like, don't give that guy any lines.
Yeah.
Wait a second, that's me. Yes.
That's me. Okay, just show me. That's okay.
Yeah. But no, you're right. And he is a great actor, because
absolutely. Yeah.
There's so much that happens in his eyes.
That's right.
And how he moves, and how he just
That's right.
That confidence, and that there's some kind of presence that he brings to it. And Alice Cooper's got that same kind of thing, he's just, what is he?
That's what you're the whole
human?
time you're guessing. Yeah. What is this dude? Is he a demon? Is he possessed? What's going on? And you don't really even find out until way later in the film. It's a really great way to tell a story too. He's very cryptic about the whole thing. We're not gonna come right out and tell you what's happening.
What is this?
And so it's all this like chipping away. With Victor Wong's character, who's really got Victor Wong and wow, we haven't even mentioned what's his name, the priest. The dude from Halloween.
Oh, Donald Pleasance.
Donald Pleasance, thank you. Dang.
Oh, great.
I'm gaping on that.
Great role for him.
So Donald Pleasance really is the central character in the beginning, but it kind of moves away as the story goes on. They're kind of moving away from him, but he and Victor Wong are the two. They're kind of like, well. So we can see what is happening, but we don't know what's actually happening,
and
right?
It's cool,
it just builds.
Right, and they're opposite sides of the spectrum. One is like the religion dude, and one is the science dude, but they kind of cross over. Like, they both respect each other's views in a way, which is really cool. You know, like that's very rare to see that, just that kind of friendship.
Because Donald Pleasance's character seeks him out, right? He goes to get him and is like, look, man, I need help.
Yeah, we need science. And then the scientist is like, well, I love he's got a great quote there too when he's lecturing in the university.
Yes.
He's talking about reality and everything. Yes. And you're like, whoa.
What we don't know. It's all about what we don't know, right? That's the whole...
And we expect things to work this way, but they don't.
Right. It's only that our understanding allows us to say this is how we understand the way things work. That doesn't mean that that's actually how they work. Yeah. And that gets all into metaphysics, and it's great though. It's beautiful. Because it comes up huge towards the end when the crossover, the dimensions, and the girl going through the freaking mirror.
Oh, man.
the water or whatever. It's a mirror. It's a mirror. Yeah.
It's so cool, and I love that whole thing with the dreams too. The brotherhood of brotherhood of sleep, right? And and that video where they're seeing, that's such a creepy like Blair's Witch Project video. It is a little handheld shaky camera, and then you see that shadow guy back there, and the light, and they're all having that dream, and you're like, but then you're like, wait though, that could be people from the future that are sending an electromagnetic pulse,
right?
And so it's
to warn us, from the future. So then it got totally They Live, which I love, especially with the fact that it's on the radio. So it's kind of like you're hearing that shitty, super grainy, very high radio signally, shortwave radio, and then that instantly I was like, oh, dude, that is so They Live to the max, right? And it's just that like, yep, we're gonna make that work.
I have a feeling that there's at least one alleyway in that movie that they used in They Live too.
Oh yeah.
I was like looking at some of those alleyways. I'm like,
this is where they fought, right?
Yeah, this might be where they had their huge epic wrestling match.
Yep.
Yeah, man, that was great. Just all the what's great about this movie is it's not a science movie and it's not a religion movie.
Yeah,
it's like this weird little crossover, and it just makes you question a lot of things. It's like, yeah, these visions, maybe they're not so much like this magical vision thing. Maybe they're actually scientifically, electromagnetic pulses being sent from the future.
Right. Or it's aliens trying to trick you into thinking it's mysticism, when really it's like mad alien science kind of thing.
Right. Great.
So good.
Yeah, and the music. I mean, one of the things. So I didn't really remember much about this movie until I watched it again a few days ago. But I remembered the music was really good, and I keep hearing that from people too. They're like, "This is one of his best soundtracks."
I think it's one of his best. Yeah. And it's just so easy to fall back to Halloween because Halloween is so good. But as a musician, he's a minimalist, right? He really, really, really is a minimalist, which I love because I think it works. Horror more than any other genre needs minimalism so as not to distract you from what else is going on. You just need to reinforce the creepy feeling that you're getting, right? And take you on the roller coasters.
It's the bass, right? It's the bass line.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And for the Halloween soundtrack, for how good it is, it really is 3 synthesizer and keyboard parts. The whole freaking thing, right? And I'm not knocking that. It's good. But Prince of Darkness, I think, was a much more rounded out. There's a little bit more going on. Not a whole lot. It's still Carpenter's voice all the way through. But I really do think so far that it could be one of the best things he did. Yeah,
he's playing with all the choral stuff and everything.
Man,
there's
big time.
more like
big time.
There's more vocabulary there.
Yep, and and in the special edition stuff, he talks about all that where they got that sampler, right? He's like, all of a sudden, we got this sampler, and it's got like, hey, it's got 10 million, and they're talking about the floppy disks, right? You're like, okay, we want voices, and they get the flop, they go through the floppy disks and stick it in there to get it to work.
So cool.
But it really is good. Yeah. And didn't he had Manfredi helped him on that, right? It was like he collaborated with.
No, it was
or is it
because I just watched it the other night. It's Alan Howarth.
Oh, Howarth, that's it.
Which I think he worked with him a bunch, even going back to like Escape from New York.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
That's one of my favorite soundtracks.
So good
ever too.
So good.
Landing the.
I was just gonna say, when you're listening to it, you're just watching the movie when you listen to that soundtrack, right?
I know.
Yeah.
Fun.
It just takes you right through. Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, Prince of Darkness, and let's talk for a second about his. I love this main dude who I'd never seen in anything else. The Brian, his name is in the movie.
Yep.
And he's got a mustache, just like John Carpenter.
Yes.
And you see this a few times where John Carpenter is a huge believer in the mustache.
Yes.
And a lot of times he'll make his main character have a mustache.
Have a stash, yeah.
And he's just like, come on, everybody, get with me on this mustache thing.
Yep.
And that guy did a decent job. Wasn't completely, I didn't really, I wasn't like, oh, he's the main, he's Kurt Russell here.
No. Not by any means. And he's not. He's your lead. He's your male lead, right? But he doesn't give you the feeling really
that
his character isn't. I don't even know if it's so much the actor is at fault there.
I don't know.
because it does seem like a little bit more of an ensemble.
Yeah, it does. You're right.
Way of telling the story. So
yeah.
he's definitely the lead, but yeah, he doesn't give you that immediate like I'm taking control of things and
he's not the action hero of the
right.
But you're right. That wasn't really needed either. I love that death scene where that one dude stays outside. They're all talking. And then that one guy's like, "Hey, this could be it, man. This is the truth of everything." And they're like, "Come on, man, come on." And he's like, "No, I'm just gonna stand out here with all the weird homeless people.
I'm leaving."
And he just stands there. And then the next time you see him, he's standing out there all unnaturally,
all crooked.
And this voice that comes out of him is the greatest.
It's so like, good.
Hello. And I'm like, what? And it's like the bugs. I think it's the bugs.
It's the bugs talking.
They all got together and they're like, let's try to spook.
They're like Oogie Boogie or something, right?
And you just go back and then you zoom in on him and he's just full of bugs.
Yep.
And he's like, "Pray for death." And then he just just like one piece by one piece falls down, collapses in on himself.
Yes, into a pile of cockroaches.
Like,
they were some little black beetle thing, but yeah.
Oh,
it's so brilliant.
That was the best. That was the best.
Yeah. Just because it's such a level of weird and just creep factor.
Yeah.
Both, right?
I know.
But not just straight trying to creep you out, trying to weird you out.
It's just trying to weird you out.
Yeah.
Because
it has to be the bugs talking, right?
Yeah. Because you would think that if you're going to make that scene, you would just have him standing there and then they're trying to talk to him and then just slowly kind of just collapses on himself and then everybody's like, "Oh, gross."
Right.
We've been yelling at him for a few minutes and he's not even alive.
Right.
But no, that's not what they're doing.
No.
They're having him talk to you. Hello. He's just out there. And I wish that they would have had a longer scene where they had more of a conversation with the bugs because that was just pure fun.
It was.
Oh man, that was cool. But
oh man.
But again, can you pull up that other guy's name too? I love this guy. He is in.
Who's in every one of John Carpenter. That's what I'm looking at.
And he was in Body Bags.
Yes.
In the gas station one, right?
Yeah.
And he plays this kind of like.
Yeah. Peter Jason. Yep.
Yes.
Dr.
Love
Paul Leary.
Love this guy. He comes in there with the cigar or the cigarette, and he's like, "Hey, what are we doing here? Looking around. And he is awesome in this movie.
He's awesome in
everything.
all movies.
Yeah.
He's really good. He's a fantastic character actor.
Yeah.
But he's been in so many freaking John Carpenter movies.
Yeah.
Particularly They Live. That's the first time I think I really paid attention to who he was because he's the Resistance leader. Right? In the church.
Yep.
But oh man, he's in Mortal Kombat. He's in Arachnophobia. He's in 48 Hours. I mean, there's the 80s.
Totally. And it's
funny.
funny.
He was so good in Body Bags.
It's funny.
This is one thing after another.
Yeah, it's funny to think that this movie. So this was in '87.
Yes.
So it came out after Big Trouble in Little China, right?
Yeah, right. It was the next Carpenter movie after Big Trouble.
That's bizarre.
I think, or in Memoirs.
Yeah.
Might be in between there, but I could be wrong about that.
No, I think it's Big Trouble in Little China was '86.
Yeah, and then this was '87. I think you're right. Yep.
And man, just playing at the peak of his game here. I think.
Totally.
I love the ethereal green tube of weird Prince of Darkness guy.
So tell me,
swirling around there.
Tell me this. This is how stupid and jaded I've gotten. So when I watched it, I thought it had to be an optical effect. I thought, okay, that's an optical effect, right? So, i.e., there's probably a blue tube there, and then they went in and they matted it out and they animated that swirl in there. Then when I watched the special edition, I could not believe that was a standalone, practical, mechanical effect.
No kidding.
The whole thing, there's zero. Now there might be color correction going on, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't do that whole thing. Was a prop.
Wow.
So the actors were there, and John Carpenter is saying, man, it was the worst thing in the world because it all was dependent on the lighting, right? Yeah. They had some crazy ass light rig in the floor and in the ceiling
just to get
get that thing to glow, and then it had a big propeller in the middle of it that would spin whatever crap they had in there to give it that swirly. Here's the devil in here, right? I couldn't believe it.
That's amazing.
That's a real thing. That was a real prop. That wasn't some. cheap animation.
Who has that prop right now? That's what I want to know.
He also said it weighed like a gazillion. He's like, literally, it was like 800 pounds. And so they didn't want to move it because it was precarious and it was all full of like oil and stuff, you know? Right. So they're like, man, we had to, it's like, well, are we going to move the set around this thing or can we move it? And if it breaks, are we going to be down for a day to get it up and running? And I was like, that's just nobody. I mean, on paper, if you told somebody that's what you wanted to do in their movie, they'd say no effing way.
No way, yeah.
We can hire 10 guys and we'll draw it in there for you. And nobody, quotation marks, will know. We'll all know, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, okay, that's probably just because it looks unreal. It looks totally unreal, and it was real.
Yeah, I know, and that's probably why it works so well, right?
Yes, exactly. Yep.
You would expect it. Just exactly what you just said. You would expect it to be animated.
Yep.
So good.
And it's good because it's not. And isn't that funny that? So we see who might be Prince of Darkness, right? We see him in those the dream sequences when he's standing in the door, which is just creepy as hell, right?
Yep.
He's just wearing like a shroud. It's awesome. But
I want that as a GIF. I can just keep
a GIF. Yeah, totally.
It's just such a great little sequence.
It is. But it's weird that there's no real central monster in this one, right? There's the thing, the tomb or whatever they call it. I guess it's a tomb, right?
Yeah.
Because they've got him sealed in there.
Yep.
So there's that thing, and the idiot scientists break it, and then it starts letting the stuff out, right? Which is like, but we don't really see any monster until the mirror scene when we see the devil's hand reaching out to grab the girl, right?
You never see like, I am the Prince of Darkness.
No,
you keep expecting
it's this prop, which is kind of a cool way to do it because you're not. But so think about this: how many times in a movie have you been like, "Dang it, show the monster"?
Yeah,
show the monster.
Right. Quit
doing cutaways.
Yeah,
we aren't not seeing the monster because of cutaways. That's a super awesome storytelling way, right?
It is.
So we see the canister, and we know that once it starts leaking, it's obvious, right? Because then it's they shoot people in the mouth off the ceiling and into each other's mouth.
Infected, yeah.
But and it is kind of cool how that pool keeps getting like bigger and bigger and bigger, and the canister is still full
on the ceiling there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
You're like, oh crap.
Yeah, you're right though, but you never actually go and then okay, now it's the devil,
right?
And it's Gabriel Byrne,
and because
that for as great as Gabriel Byrne is,
yes,
and name your top cinematic Satan. I mean, there's tons of them. They're great.
Totally. Gabriel Byrne is a fantastic one in End of Times, and then Legend with I would say that Tim Curry's my favorite, because he's just so over the top. That's the 80s again, right?
Love it.
Let's do him in extreme, where he's got 8-foot freaking horns sticking out and gigantic goat legs and
the glowing eyes
and the glowing yellow eyes. Yeah. But you're right. You don't need that in this.
You don't need that, and
you don't need it.
And anything. You get to a point where there's so much tension and there's so much buildup that anything would be disappointing. I think if you finally
you're absolutely
you can name the greatest actor in the world with the best movie makeup, and you'd still be kind of like, oh, that's it. It's just that's the devil.
Well, and the funny thing is, how is the devil going to be better than Alice Cooper was in the beginning of the film?
Right. You can't.
You'd be like, no, make Alice Cooper be the devil.
And part of me wonders too that like maybe there was that moment where they were gonna use Alice Cooper as the devil,
right?
And then they saw him as his homeless character, and they're just
yep.
Let's just keep this.
Do that.
We can't do better than this.
Yep. I wonder what if he was the cowl wearing guy in the door. Right.
He could have been.
Those little secrets.
Yeah.
That might have been Deborah Hill.
Yes. Oh man, or Deborah Harry.
Oh, speaking of
buddy
bags.
Yep, nice little segue.
Oh, good old Debbie Harry.
We talked about this beforehand. Yep. This is our John Carpenter episode because we couldn't nail down whether to talk about just the thing.
Yep.
Or then because then you went and got Prince of Darkness, and you also got In the Mouth of Madness
and Body Bags
Body Bags.
Yep.
And we're like, there's just too much to talk about. So we talked about this beforehand. We're going to talk about The Thing.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about Prince of Darkness.
Check.
And then our last thing today we're going to talk about is
Body Bags.
Yep. And which is really good. I watched it this morning, which is a fun way to watch creepy
in the morning,
creepy gory horror movies with your 6-year-old son.
Yes.
I had to keep sending him away to go do stuff.
Yep.
And it worked pretty well because they're kind of short too. Each episode is
they are
30 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
The gas station is what he leads off with. John Carpenter. This is one of the few times we get to see John Carpenter, the actor.
Yes.
Who does a decent job as the coroner.
He does. Right.
He is creepy and funny, and he kind of he holds his own against the crypt keeper.
He does, because that's kind of the play they're going for.
They're trying to go for that.
Yep.
You can't really beat the crypt keeper though.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right.
And they know it too.
Yeah.
So, but they had fun with it.
Yeah. But they did it the right way. They didn't make a stupid puppet and have him overdub it, or make a puppet of John Carpenter as the crypt. They could have been a bunch of schmucky stuff like that, right? They really did do it where it's like, okay, you'll just be the creep, right? I mean, you're the creepy weirdo.
You're the creepy weirdo, and just go for it.
Yeah. And it's good too, because you don't know right away that he's the cadaver, right? He's the cadaver in the morgue. You think that he's the doctor in the morgue.
That's a nice little twist.
Until Tobe Hooper and Tom Arnold show up.
Can we just talk about Tom Arnold for a second?
Yes, please.
What is the deal? Like, how did he become friends with everyone in L.A. for like 2 years there in like the mid-90s?
Roseanne, I have to think.
But
so because I'm not sure. Did he have? Because maybe he had something going before Roseanne.
I think from what I remember is I think he was a struggling stand-up comic.
Okay.
Right. But he wasn't getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And then he met Roseanne, and she just brought him up, right?
Yeah, and I mean that, and not to say that she's riding his coattails, because he is a fairly funny, jovial guy, right?
Yeah.
And so it was probably he just needed what she gave him, which was exposure to other people.
Yes.
And then they're like, oh yeah, this guy's great.
And everybody.
And sometimes that's all it takes.
I think he was just so for whatever reason.
Just such a cool dude. Yeah.
He was such a fun, cool dude. Yeah. Everybody was like.
They all wanted him.
Yeah, come on, Tom Arnold.
Yeah,
you got to be in this.
Yeah, because then he was prolific in the '90s. I mean, totally.
And I do have to hand it to him in True Lies. He does a great job in True Lies. I love him in True Lies.
Yes.
And I love Bill Paxton.
I love Bill Paxton's my favorite.
True Lies.
He's so brilliant.
Talk about
he is so brilliant, because
the best used car salesman in the history of everything.
Yes, and it's the hardest thing I think that actors have to do is to play somebody who the audience will genuinely despise and be like, "You are a dirtbag," and he nails it. Oh,
he goes so far.
I have a little dick. I mean,
he goes so far over the line with that pencil thin mustache too.
Yes.
Oh man, he's the best.
Yes.
He's the best.
Yes. Okay, back to
body bags.
Body bags.
Let's not talk about Tom Arnold anymore. We can do a whole nother episode. No, we will never do another episode on Tom Arnold.
Sorry, Tom, you out. Tobe Hooper's in.
You know what's funny is he was also in that he had a cameo in Nightmare on Elm Street. Remember?
He did.
Freddy's dead.
Yeah.
Roseanne and him.
Yes, that's right.
Yep. Which Roseanne. I don't want to get all political right now and stuff, but she's going through a lot of trouble politically right now.
Totally.
And she's always like, "Well, you can't do it because Hollywood doesn't like me. Hollywood never liked me." Right. Yes, they did.
Right.
They loved you.
Yes.
You were in Nightmare on Elm Street. You were like everybody's child, love child. You know.
Yep.
Is that the right word? I don't know.
I think that the problem that celebrities run into is that it's great when everybody loves you and everyone's giving you the stroke and you're making everybody money. Right. The thing is, you're in a den of wolves. Yep. And the first second that you show weakness or that you aren't on the bandwagon anymore, they're going to fucking rip you to pieces. They're just going to trash you.
They're waiting.
Right?
They're waiting.
They're waiting in line, right? And so we can do, and it's not just with people on the right and it's not just with people on the left, because we can compare what's going on with her now and what was going on with the comedian, the redheaded gal, during the elections.
Yep. I know who you're talking about.
That chick.
Yep.
Come on, people. Someone out there will remember her name.
I know. She's
Carrot Tops look-alike. That lady. So she's on the extreme. She's on the far left, right? And Roseanne's generally considered to be kind of on the right. She's a lefty, but she appeals to middle America with all of her humor and everything, right?
Especially since Trump.
Yes.
She's,
exactly.
God.
Yeah.
She's definitely on that side now.
The thing is, as soon as you show weakness, not just fans who will rip you to pieces. The people in the industry are the worst kind of predators, right? And they will trash you in a freaking second, and then they don't ever return your phone calls. You never lived. They don't even know your freaking name anymore, right? Because it's whoever's next. Whatever's next is what's going on.
Flavor of the month.
And you can't, I think it's really hard for people to work in that industry for 20 or 30, 40 years, and then all of a sudden realize that not only does no one care, you're not even a human being there anymore.
Right.
You're gone. You're out.
Oh, it's full of stories. It's full of stories, right?
I
always think about, I remember one of our favorite movies we talk about ad infinitum is Pulp Fiction.
Absolutely.
And just to touch briefly, because I do want to go back to Body Bags as soon as we can.
In one second.
But John Travolta, I remember seeing this episode of The Simpsons back in the day, and they were making fun of Travolta because they were just like, he was in Grease and Saturday Night Fever. He's a has-been. Like, they were just all these jokes about Travolta. Like, the very next year, he's in Pulp Fiction, and he is like the biggest movie star in the world. Everybody's like, Travolta is the best. He's we always loved him.
It gets into that weird fanboy, this whole, it's celebrity. It really is. Capital C, capital E. Celebrity, where the money is in that whole bandwagon-y, this is the great, and so it can be, that can either be, it's so bad, you're such a terrible person, Roseanne, we're going to trash you now, and that's what the big thing is, and it can be, hey, look, he came back, yay, it's John Travolta, it's this new success story, because
it's
he
the
was
comeback.
doing with Look Who's Talking also.
Yes.
And now he did this great thing. And luckily for him, he's been kind of on the, I mean, he's done some serious clunkers between now and then, but
he's
still
able to revive.
Right? Yeah. He's still
he's like,
there,
everybody since that, I think everyone since Travolta whoever falls off the wagon, they're all wondering like, maybe I can work with Tarantino and he'll give me my comeback.
So true.
So true. Because Tarantino got known for that then.
That's right. Absolutely.
He's the comeback guy.
Absolutely did. I mean, every single movie he was really good about, and that's a testament to Tarantino about knowing how to write a part for an actor and getting that actor to do the part. Right. Because then it works both ways. Your storytelling is awesome because you got the person you wanted to play that part. Right. And that person is now back in the screen. Michael Biehn never went totally away, but Michael Biehn and Jeff Fahey playing opposite each other in the
zombie one,
the
Robert Rodriguez Planet Terror.
Yes, thank you. Which is, in a weird way, a Tarantino movie, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's part of the Grindhouse
stuff. But being able to get, it's like we just get these guys and we give them the right things, because I think a lot of the times actors are just like, they get to the point, I'll just do anything.
Right.
But then
they're just waiting for good scripts, and then they just never come.
Yeah. Can't all be Clint Eastwood and write your own parts.
Right.
Direct your own movie for your own damn self, and be awesome.
And keep winning an Academy Award after Academy Award for it.
It's like Clint Eastwood will be buried in a mountain of Academy Awards. He'll be under that big mountain of them over there.
And we'll give him an Academy Award for that too.
Yes.
God.
He has a castle on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
He deserves
no star, just a big castle.
Right. He deserves it though. He deserves it.
Okay, back to Body Bags.
But back to Body Bags. So let's just I love, my favorite one is the gas station.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
And I love it because it's just the classic. It's a campfire horror story.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get simpler than this.
No.
It's the classic. College girl, working the graveyard shift at the gas station, and there's a killer on the loose.
Yep. That's it.
That's all it is. And and it doesn't really get fancy or anything. There's a couple surprises in there, I'd say, but for the most part, it's fun because for anybody that loves horror, you get to see Wes Craven.
Everybody. Sam
Raimi shows up. You got that guy we just talked about, David Jason, Dan Jason.
Yep. Peter Jason.
Mr. Jason was in it, and I mean, it's just fun. It's just fun. And what it's funny, the main dude that is working at, I'm not going to try to spoil anything, but the main guy who's working, who hands off the keys to her.
Yes.
He's the guy from Revenge of the Nerds. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Robert Carradine.
Yes. That's right.
And he's awesome in that.
Yep.
Fun.
And, right. Yeah. Don't give anything away, but yes, he's got a very good part in it. Which I think was awesome because I'm a huge Robert Carradine fan. I think he's great. I think Long Riders, which was the Western he did with all his brothers, is a fantastic movie, 1980, I think.
Okay.
Stacy Keach is in that movie also.
Wow.
And Stacy Keach is in
the second, The Hair.
In The Hair, yes. But then Revenge of the Nerds, which is a great movie.
Yep. He's part of that whole Carradine clan.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. Yeah, he's fantastic in The Gas Station.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Just
Sam Raimi is scene stealer.
He is.
Again, talk about people not having lines. For not having any lines, he steals all the scenes.
He's the best. He's the best. You're just like, oh, that's Sam Raimi. Employee of the month.
Employee of the month at Chevron or wherever they're at. Yeah.
And somebody please make a poster of that Sam Raimi Employee of the Month.
Of his Employee of the Month picture.
Yep.
Yes.
That would be so good.
Yep.
Hair is kind of my least favorite one out of the three.
Okay.
I think it's a little it's fun, it's funny, it's cool. It's one of those things where how do you like your horror, you know?
Yes.
Do you like your horror more
That's right.
grounded and more old school?
Yep.
Or do you want to get all spacey and alien-y with it?
Right.
So it kind of depends on your mood.
Let me bounce an idea off you. This is what I took from The Hair. Because I kind of felt the same way about The Hair. I was like, whatever. But I think it's more what I liked about The Hair is what they were commenting on.
Yeah.
So Stacy Keach's character is a yuppie scumbag. He is the worst kind
He's Bill Paxton
of yuppie. Yeah. You know, it's like his house is all brass and silvery and brass and white. Right? It's so 90s puke-tastic.
Oh god, yeah.
And then it's like he's this professional guy in a good position, but he's hung up on is the fact that his hair is falling out.
Yeah.
Right? And so what I took from
American Psycho.
Thank you. I saw thank you. Sorry, gaping out there. Saw Hair as the same kind of commenting on yuppie culture that American Psycho is.
Yep.
All the trouble he gets into, he goes looking for trouble.
Yeah.
Right? He's the one who really gets David Warner, who's the doctor, right? He's great.
He is
great character actor. You haven't seen Waxworks, people. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
David Warner at his best.
Yep.
Time Bandits. Or he's
Time
the devil.
Bandits. Yeah. Or I was also going to say TMNT 2, Secret of the Ooze.
Yes.
The scientist.
Oh, I wouldn't even thought of that. Yeah, you're right. Yes. Yeah.
He's awesome.
Man, he's great. But yeah, Stacy Keach kind of he gets into his own trouble. He kind of creates it for himself, right? Because he didn't have to go try to grow hair from these weirdos who put aliens into his body that make his hair grow nice and long.
It is great when it starts growing out of his face.
Oh yeah, out of his
he's
cheeks.
So horrible looking.
He's pulling it out of his mouth.
Yeah. So
good stuff. But yeah, I kind of thought it was like ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Let's make fun of yuppies.
Right.
Yuppies get what they want.
Yeah.
Get what they ask for, kind of thing.
And you know, John Carpenter does not have much love for yuppies,
right?
The establishment,
right?
Authority, anything.
Absolutely.
I mean, if we're gonna say anything about John Carpenter, this guy is a rebel.
Yeah,
to the
absolutely.
max.
In the best way.
He could care less.
Yep.
About. Go back to what we were saying about the industry and how people see you and how people
big Hollywood. Yeah.
Kissing that person's ass and kissing that person's ass, and he you can tell this dude never had anything to do with that. He was just like, I'm here to make movies. And to smoke cigarettes and to have a mustache.
Yes.
That's John Carpenter.
Play me some Korg synthesizer.
Yeah. Right. And I mean, that's why we love John Carpenter.
Yeah.
He no compromises, this guy. Yep. Even when he has to compromise, when he has no money, he still doesn't compromise. He still you can still tell that's a John Carpenter movie.
Yep.
And that's why he's one of the greats, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And Tobe Hooper also does, so he's good buddies with Carpenter, you can tell from this collaboration.
Yep.
And Tobe Hooper directs third story called The Eye. Right?
I liked quite a bit. What'd you think?
I did too. And what was funny, afterwards I was watching a little bit of the making up of stuff, and I didn't realize that Tobe Hooper actually directed the Eye, because I thought I thought he did the second one, and I thought Carpenter did the Gas Station and The Eye. Right. Because I was like, it felt like Carpenter.
Yeah, totally. It totally does. Yeah.
But then you look back and you're like, oh yeah, I can see that was Tobe Hooper.
Yeah. I think it was the darkest of the three. The storytelling aspect
definitely
was more kind of.
It was.
Yeah. Well, downward spiral kind of thing, right? Of Mark Hamill's.
And there's a scene in there, particularly with Mark Hamill and his wife, Twiggy.
Yes, that's right.
I kept watching. I was like, "Who is that? Who
yeah.
is that?" Yeah.
Yep, I know. I did the same thing.
Yeah, but with where they're in bed, right?
Yeah.
And that's when you know Tobe Hooper is directing this, because you get full on total nudity shot of them on bed. Just a very uncomfortable angle, I think, for everybody.
It's
not a very flattering
It's not like,
shot.
oh, this is great and sexy. You're like, oh.
You're just like,
this
whoa,
is disturbing.
Okay. When he's rolling off of the top of her. Okay. Let's move on. But that was a really good creepy one. I love Roger Corman in that as the doctor. I'm like, again, that's another good use, like Alice Cooper.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Roger Corman.
One of my superheroes.
I would not be surprised if I went to the doctor and I saw Roger Corman dressed as a doctor.
Was your doctor?
I'd be like, that looks like my doctor.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even think twice. He does such a perfect doctor.
Yep.
And he's, I love Roger Corman.
Yes, me too.
He's awesome.
Me too. Oh, to death. I think, people who don't get what he did just need to dig deeper.
Yeah.
Because he's an incredible dude. He's done incredible stuff. And he did do a lot of cheeky crap, right?
He did.
But I think that's like saying, do you blame somebody for going to an everyday job so they can pay the bills?
Yeah.
You wouldn't blame anybody else for that, right?
No.
And so I don't think we should blame him for it either. Now you could make an argument for other directors, but he was so prolific and he's made so many movies. Some of them were just to pay the bills so he could make other stuff. Yeah. And so I don't care. I mean, you could spend a lifetime watching Roger Corman movies.
Yes.
I'm going to watch these 400 movies because most of it he produced. He didn't even direct all that much except early on, right?
Right.
But he's produced. Oh my goodness!
Think
so
about
many
how many
movies.
people he's influenced, and I mean, really, the whole reason we have a independent cinema. Really,
that's right.
From him.
That's
right?
absolutely right. Yep.
Like, he made it possible, or him and George Romero, really, right?
Really.
Like
those
guys particularly, I think they showed how you could make a movie outside of the studio system.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
And man, yeah. So he's a great doctor. I love that other doctor. I think is
the super old guy.
He's awesome, and he's getting attacked by Mark Hamill in the parking lot, and he's just like, "What's wrong, my dear boy?" And he's like, he's like strangling him, and he's just completely keeping his cool. Like, "Oh, you seem like something's wrong. What is it?" He's like, "I want to kill you. Where did this eye come from?"
Yep.
We have an appointment later. So Mark Hamill. Great job in that.
Yeah, he's fantastic in it.
I almost wished, I'm sitting there watching this. I'm like, so this is like the mid '90s, right?
Yep. 94.
So Mark Hamill must have been around pushing 40 around then, right? He must have been right around, 40 there. Can you imagine if he would have just stayed making horror movies from then on?
Oh my goodness,
We'd have so many great like cheesy horror movies.
We would.
Because he does a great job. He's believable.
Yes.
But he also has that like that undefinable kind of a little bit of that like Bruce Campbell magic where it's like, I could see this guy in like a whole bunch of crappy horror movies.
Totally.
And he could totally carry it.
Absolutely. Yep.
He did an awesome job.
Yep. Yeah, I wish there was more, because he's done so much voiceover, which is awesome. I think he's a great, because a lot of the times even I don't even know it's him.
I know.
Until I read the credits, I'm like, oh dang,
that's him.
That was him, right?
Yeah.
And he's really fantastic at that. But except as Cockknocker in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back,
right.
There's not a whole lot of things I think of him I immediately go to, like, oh, that's Mark Hamill outside of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, right. Well, and which is funny is if you ever watch any interview with Mark Hamill, like when he's on Conan O'Brien or something like that, he is the most awkward person to interview because he really should be in like exploitation movies and like that's I think that's where he feels most comfortable. Like that's really him, Like he just kind of became this huge superstar, but there's a great, if you look it up sometime, there's like an old Conan O'Brien interview where he's interviewing Mark Hamill.
I think I've seen it,
and and that's when Mark Hamill was like pushing his comic that he was writing.
Yep.
And he's just so inappropriate. Totally. And like you can just feel like all these moms and little kids are watching, like, look, Skywalker's on, let's watch it tonight. And then they're all just like horrified as he's talking about strip clubs and all this stuff. And I mean, he's a cool guy. No,
totally.
No, to be fair, let me make this clear. I don't. If you are a childhood icon, I don't think you should have to just play that
No.
in real life. Oh, right.
Of course not. No.
But on the other hand, there are people though that are better at kind of preserving their image a little bit.
That's right. And that's all that's about. Right. Yeah. That's all the projection, right?
Right.
Because if anybody thinks that they know an actor, they're wrong. Unless they actually know the person, you don't.
Yeah, they're not.
You're in love with what you saw in the film, and that's great. That's what actors want, and that's what directors want more than anything, right? They want you to fall in love
they
with
want
the
you to
stories
believe it.
and the characters and to believe it. Yeah. But to think for 1 second, you know, and I hate to say it, but it's like we were joking about 80s TV evangelism before. If you think for 1 second that person on TV is that way when you meet them, that's a terrible disappointment. That's terrible. You know, just they're not. They're actors. You know, these are actors, and they're doing a portrayal of something.
And I think that's why most actors are kind of afraid of meeting people too. Because
I think so.
Because everybody's coming at them like,
that's right,
all the time. Let's shake my hand, Luke Skywalker.
I know
and then you're just like, I'm not that guy. Stay away from me.
Yep.
I want you to preserve your little bubble of me, but I also don't want to try to pretend to be that for you because I'm a real guy.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I heard a fantastic interview with what's his name, Fonzie.
Henry Winkler.
Talking about that and how it was really in the 70s because it was like Beatlemania for the guys in Happy Days. Yeah. And they're like, he's like, man, we were doing this tour around like, you know, to different mall. I think it was Mall of America in Minnesota where he was talking about. Yeah. Because he's like, the one time that we were out there, he's like, I really thought we were in trouble because we were leaving to go to the car. And he's like, literally hundreds of people were out there waiting. My God. And they all got in between. You know, it was him and Ron Howard and the guy that Potsy.
Yep.
Anson Carter. Anson Carter, I think is his name.
Yeah,
anyway,
good memory.
He's like, it was us, and we're walking, and all of a sudden you couldn't go anywhere, and literally there are hundreds and hundreds of people around you, and he's like, it's the one single time that he became the Fonz. Yeah. And he's like, he snapped his fingers, and he said, yo! And everybody moved. And they were all like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. And he's like, we were shitting our pants scared that these people are just going to mug you, you know? They're going to be like, ah!
They just kind of doggy pile on you and just like flop around on top of you like, I'm on top of the Fonz.
Right. Yeah.
That's what people do at Comic-Con.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Dudes throwing their underwear to their favorite comic book writers, right? Sad. It's no panties for you guys. It's man underwear. It's man panties.
Yikes. No thanks.
From the 400-pound fanboy who's 39 and has only read Frank Miller comics his whole life.
Oh, God.
Frank!
Why are you making fun of me, Dr. K? Huh? Why are you calling me out like that?
Sorry.
But no, it's got to be tough to be a famous actor.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But you know,
not if you can just grow a beard out, I guess, and hide. You know, be a chameleon, and nobody actually knows that they're seeing you. Some actors are good at that. Some aren't.
Right. I'm trying to think. There are a few where they're just like they totally can get through. All of these things we're talking about, they can just survive all of it, and they're still cool.
Yep.
They've never gone from up and down, up and down. They're just always been that same thing.
Right.
Maybe Clint Eastwood is one of those guys.
Clint Eastwood, definitely. Kurt Russell, I was going to say. Yes. Every interview I hear with Kurt Russell, he seems so grounded.
Yeah.
He really...
He never was hated or never was...
That too, exactly. Yep. Even Tango and Cash, Kurt. I didn't even hate you then.
Yes.
I actually loved that movie when I was a kid.
That is a fun movie.
Maybe it doesn't hold up the same way The Thing does for the same reasons. It holds up as being like, man, that's the 80s right there. Right. Look at that tank top from someone wearing a tank top.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, that was one of those. The 80s were great for that thing of like you had Stallone and Van Damme and Schwarzenegger and all the top action guys, you know, and then Stallone being Stallone because Stallone is actually a really smart dude, you know.
Yes.
He'd be like, you know what, I'm gonna play against type now. Now I'm gonna be the nerdy guy with the glasses and wear the suit.
Yep.
And you know, it worked in Tango and Cash.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Totally.
Yeah, you're right. It's probably not so good today, but it was fun to see that back in the 80s. Like, what? This huge,
absolutely,
like, muscle dude is now he's a He's just a
because we didn't see Arnie do that until like Twins,
or when he became pregnant.
I was just gonna say that was the one. What the heck?
God, he's had some real stinking movies.
That was a piece of crap.
What was that? Junior.
Yeah.
Junior.
Yeah.
Terrible.
It's not a migraine. It's not a tumor. It's a migraine.
Dude, what we were talking about, let's make this clear again too for everyone. John Carpenter we have only scratched the surface.
We've just started, people.
I don't even think
so. This is episode 1.
Yeah.
Sub episode. This is you're listening to episode 3 of our podcast, but this is part 1.
Part 1
of John Carpenter, which will probably be a 3 or 4 or 5 part.
It might just keep going.
Series, and we hope that you love it as much as we love it.
Yeah,
because John is just the best.
He's one of the best. I mean, we still have to talk about In the Mouth of Madness, which is one of my favorite movies.
Yep.
One of my favorite of his, definitely.
Yep.
And Halloween.
Halloween, The Fog.
The Fog.
Escape
from New York. Escape from L.A.
Yep.
It just goes on and on. You know, one that I didn't like so much, but it also had Mark Hamill in it.
Yeah.
Was Village of the Damned.
Yes. Yep.
It's all right.
Yep.
It's all right.
I think the reason I was trying to think about why I didn't like that one as much either. I have to rewatch it, but I think it was because it felt too 90s for me.
Yeah.
So I need to watch it again because maybe now I'll be like, oh yeah, well okay, that's not nearly, or I might be like, dang, maybe that's not as good.
No, I think you're right. It relies so much on those albino little kids, right?
Yeah.
And they can only be scary for so long. I think. And,
that's a good point.
To sit with them for an hour and a half.
Have you seen the original?
No, but I've heard that's pretty.
Me neither. I haven't seen it either. Maybe we should watch both of them and talk about that.
That would be interesting, I think.
Yep.
And a big thing that we have to touch on next time, I think, is the similarities between John Carpenter and Stephen King.
Absolutely.
And how?
Oh yeah, we didn't even get into that.
Yeah,
we have to.
And Village of the Damned, that movie too, also feels like a Stephen King movie, right? It feels almost like Children of the Corn or something. You know, it's got that same kind of vibe.
Yep.
But yeah, I think we have scratched the surface of John Carpenter.
Yes, we've opened the door. Hopefully, we've opened your doors, audience.
Yes. Let us know if we forgot anything.
Yep. Please leave comments. We need more comments.
Right,
no
right.
one wants to comment, and if we comment, then we're assholes. So we need you to comment. Otherwise, I gotta call my mom, and Peter's got to call his brothers and be like, "Hey, leave some comments so people will talk."
Yeah, come on, guys. So here's a topic. Talk about Mark Hamill, and talk about all of his appearances on talk shows. Which one was the most disturbing for you? That'll be a fun conversation.
Absolutely.
Or Harrison Ford interviews. Talk about
Harrison.
They're also very uncomfortable to watch.
Yes. Yep.
Which, I learned recently it might be because he has been high all the time.
Yes.
Like he just, every time he's on a talk show, he's high.
Yep.
Possible?
Yep.
I don't know.
His green room really is green.
Yes. I know. I heard this story though that he had this frying pan full, and one day his driver was picking him up, and he just ran in the back seat holding this frying pan. He's like, "Let's go, 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 go." That was a normal day for him.
Nice.
Yeah. So, man, we've talked about a lot of good stuff today.
Yep.
Let's say, okay, before we sign out, I want to just touch on each thing we talked about. Every single thing. No, just the movies. The Thing.
The Thing.
Favorite scene.
Favorite scene in The Thing is got to be the blood on the blood testing scene.
Yes.
And I say that with reserve because the autopsy scene is so freaking good.
Yeah.
But I think the blood testing scene, which has actually got some of the least amount of gore, is the tension is ratcheted so high right there that it makes everything else work so good. That's probably the scene I usually think of is when they're doing the test, right? And they're trying to see who the infected guy and then
heating up that little piece of metal.
Yep. And instead of just doing a little pinprick, they take this giant Bowie knife out and they're gaffing each other with it for a huge.
Right.
Apparently, they need a fountain of blood.
I know. That's such a good point. I need a little bit of blood, and then they just cut off the top of my finger.
Right. I might have needed that finger to fight this monster, but apparently not.
That's how they did it in the 80s, though.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sure, hey,
no savvy.
We want a lot of blood.
Okay, so Peter,
and that to be boring and stuff, but that's also my favorite scene. But I will add that the ending of that movie I also really love.
Yeah,
I mean, I think more than a lot of his other movies, I think that's got one of the bleakest endings.
Absolutely.
But he's kind of known for that too, isn't he?
Yeah.
Almost every one of his movies have kind
They
of
Live has
bleak
a
ending.
pretty terrible ending.
Even Prince of Darkness, kind of just ends on this huh?
Right. Yeah. Big question mark.
Yeah.
Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
He falls out the window. Is he down there? Nope. Gone.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So he doesn't believe in happy endings.
Right.
John Carpenter.
Right. And kudos.
Yeah. And why? Who needs them in horror movies? Who needs them, man? So yeah. And Prince of Darkness. Favorite scene? What is it? There's so much.
There are so many good ones. I'm gonna say it's when the one actor who gets possessed but is able to overcome it, the guy who kills himself with the banister.
Mm-hmm.
The thing when he breaks the piece of the banister off and because it's so weird.
Yeah.
So we know he's possessed and he's walking up, but he's singing a gospel.
Oh yeah.
And he's like got that big bellow. And he's like, "Oh Jesus, there down the river," and all that stuff.
That was good.
And then you know he's berserk, and everyone is at the top of the stairs, and they're like, "Oh, what the crap!" Yeah. And then he breaks that piece of the banister off and just knifes himself in the head to kill himself. I thought that was so cool because he's the only character who gets possessed and does anything about their possession.
You're right. He's fighting it.
He's the one who fights it. Yeah.
He was so good too, wasn't he?
And,
remember he's all like kind of like
yeah.
He's
so weird.
That creepy little laugh and then crying and like
and he gets in the big old fight with that dude out in the other room, you know, and everything. And oh man. It was just like ratcheting the weird level up on it. So I'm gonna pick that one.
I would say for me, there really is so much here. I'm trying to think of something we haven't talked about already, just to make it more interesting. But I loved, I love that let's go back to that death scene though with that scientist and Alice Cooper, where he just walks towards him with the broken up bike, and just impales him, and he just lurches on top of it. That's when you know, like, okay. Yes. That's the first sign where it's like, okay, things are going to go downhill.
Now it's going. Yeah.
We weren't sure about those homeless people up until now. Now we know.
Now we know.
They're not going to be good. It's not going to be good.
Yes.
That was great. I also love the chopstick in the eye.
Yes.
Those two really stand out to me
when
I think
one.
about this movie.
It's a good one. Yep. The funny thing, I think what I like the best effects wise is actually not even, it's not the death scene so much as it's definitely the squirt scenes, the way that he's impregnating everybody. It's just so different. She
got so gross too. Remember that girl that's like when she gets all, she's laying down and she gets all bloated.
Oh man.
And then her face just deteriorates until she's just like muscle and skin and And then you got the dude back there locked away, and he's looking at her, and he's like, she's deteriorating at a rapid pace. And you're like, that's an understatement, man. She's not looking good.
Yep.
And they start digging through the wall to get
him. Yep.
Just run, man. Just run.
Yep.
Yeah. Fun.
Yeah. Super fun.
And then I'll start off with this one for Body Bags. Yes. I loved the ending of the whole Body Bags thing where Tom Arnold and Toby Hooper come in. Yeah. And I thought that was just awesome how John Carpenter, well, it's when you realize that he was a cadaver.
When he's a cadaver,
and he just crawls up into the body bag.
And zips the bag up. Yeah.
And then they take the bone saw for his head at the end. And he's just laying there like gaping out. He's just... with his mouth wide open, and the camera pulls up.
Yes.
And you're just like, what a great way to end.
Yep. I love it. Mine was the gas station, which is the chase scene at the end, which culminates in the truck lift crushing the bad guy. Just over the top. That camera shot that's looking down when it comes down on him, you're like, dang, dude. And then more of that, please.
Yeah. And then he's just laying there with his fingers twitching around.
Yes. It's so brutal. Good. So brutal.
Brutal is a great way to describe John Carpenter in the best way.
Yep.
Brutal.
Yep.
All right, folks.
Cool. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody. This was a long one. We hope you like it. We're making up for our little absence. Sorry about that. Work gets in the way.
It does.
And our world traveler here, Peter, had continents to go to and work to be done.
That's right.
But now we're back in the game. So please leave comments. We love that we've got everybody listening. And we're going to start cranking some episodes out. I think our plan is to really get geared up and regular as we come into the fall season. Yes. because we're going to do definitely something very special in October.
The season of the witch, if you may.
Not
well that we're particularly going to do that movie, but that is a very good season for us.
Yes, it is.
So,
and we will definitely be gearing up for some Halloween goodness and another 247 horror episodes to come.
Yeah.
Until we move to 80s action.
Easily. And because I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm excited about it. We're not getting paid for this or anything, but I do want to recommend that Shout Factory has just released In the Mouth of Madness.
Yes.
And something else, right? Wasn't it? Was it Prince of Darkness too?
It was Prince of Darkness. Those
both came out at the same time, just like last month or something, right?
Yep.
So go and get those because they're great.
Definitely do. If you're looking for horror movies, just go to Shout Factory. Just put Shout Factory in. They are the premier studio right now, re-releasing restored, fantastic horror, and their back catalog is totally off the hook. You could not even go. You wouldn't have to shop around anywhere else. No. You can just see what they're putting out, and it's almost guaranteed.
It's the best.
It's
the
just
best
the
of
best.
the best.
Yeah. Yep.
And they look beautiful too. That's one thing
they
I wanted
really
to say
do.
Is like
they really
man,
do. Yep.
You can't believe some of these movies were filmed in the 80s. They look so pristine.
Yep.
So
yeah, the restorations are just super good. So thanks everybody.
Thank you.
We'll be keep in touch, and until then.